I felt reprimanded by the Lord one time when, well, I was learning about how God speaks, and sometimes you can get an attitude, and I had an attitude about, some things are just a little too silly for God to be in it. And yet I remember now, God does speak now one way, now another, though men may not perceive it. And I was in a meeting, and a man was teaching about how God speaks, and he said, sometimes God will just put a thought in your mind, or he'll give you a picture, and so let's try it. And so he opened it up to the crowd, and one guy stood up and he goes, I see a picture of a rainbow. And I kind of rolled my eyes like, oh my goodness, I mean, really? And he went on for a bit, and he gave a kind of this word, and then the man who was speaking said, well, that's very interesting. Very kind of him. That's very interesting. Does that relate to anybody? And a woman stands up across the auditorium and says, my name is Rainbow. What? Boom. And she says, that word was meant specifically for me. Very encouraging. And she went through what she was going through and how the word spoke to her. So what did I get? Bad pastor. You got to allow God to be God, not think you know it all. I spoke before about how God speaks in dreams. He's spoken to me in dreams, and I felt I should record this just for proserity's sake. Is that the way? Posterity? And it was this dream about how God spoke to me and led me through dreams of bears. Usually bears are, dreams that mean bad news. And so I had this dream. I see these two bears. They're off in the field. One is eating. He's just not, paying attention to me. But the other one is this big old boar, big male bear, looks up and looks at me and shakes his head and then starts coming. And so, like in my dream, I panic. Of course, I run as the bear starts to run. I start to run. Not always a good thing. I ran. And I get to my car. My car door's locked. Of course it's locked. I'm fumbling for my keys. Bear's getting closer. Fumbling for my keys. Bear's getting closer. Jam it in there. Bear's getting closer. I get in. I slam the door just as the bear crashes into my car. I peel away. And I look in my rearview mirror. And out of my back of the trunk or something, a suitcase had fallen out. And I had this baggage spilled all over the place. That means something. And this bear was pawing at my baggage. I wake up thinking, wow, that was quite the dream. I should make note of that one. And I did, but I kind of left it at that. Till 2 days later, or 2 nights later, I get another dream. 2 bears again, one contented, one not so contented. It was almost like waiting for me to see it. And then, boom, comes running after me. Same kind of deal. Then again, I think it was the next night or the night after, 2 bears, same kind of deal. I'm in this little cabin, ramshackle little cabin in the woods looking. And again, this bear looks like it's waiting for me to notice it. As soon as it makes eye contact with me, starts coming after me, and just like, oh man, I look around in this cabin. There's no weapon. There's nothing I can grab. It's got a broken door and an empty window. Like, what am I going to do? So I time it just as I could hear the bear outside just woofing around the door and just kind of sniffing and snorting, and all of a sudden, bam, the door comes crashing down. And so I jump out the window and I watch as the bear comes out the window. Like the window seemed to grow, I think, or something. And they're snapping at me. And then I run. It crawls out the windows. It drops onto the ground. I go back through the door and it comes through. And we do like this cartoon thing, out the window, in the door, out the window, in the door, 2 or 3 times. And then I just run. And of course, it's in a forest. And the forest is like this piddly little forest of small little aspen trees. And I'm like, there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to climb. And this thing's getting closer and closer. And it was so real. And it's running after me. I'm tired. I hide behind this little aspen as if it's going to protect me. I'm like, and I could almost smell this thing. It was like the jowls were just like slow motion, teeth snapping. It was amazing. And then it's just about to get to me, and I call out to God. I say, God, what do I do? And I hear the voice of God, and it's literally like the voice of God, not the Mickey Mouse voice, the goofy voice. Voice of God says, kiss the bear. I yell out, what? As anyone would. Kiss the bear. And so, just to be obedient, I grab this thing by the jowls and I smack it on the snout with a kiss. And the thing rears back like it's totally surprised, as only a grizzly could be. And sort of does a Scooby-Doo sound, like, and drops to the ground, disintegrates, and I wake up. I wake up laughing because it's like, what does that mean? Wow. I write it all down. I journal it. Next few days, I'm talking to people. Plane is rather loud. I'm talking to people and I'm asking them, what do you think a bear means in a dream? A lot of them are saying it's the enemy. It's, it's dangerous, but it's the sense that God said, kiss it. Kiss the enemy? What? Kiss this bear? And it wasn't for a couple of weeks later as I'm writing in my journal about it. God, speak to me, And I just started writing, and it was like God was writing. He was like saying, Rick, these 2 bears are 2 places in your life. One is a place of contentment, just feeding off nutrients, doing okay. The next place is a place of unpredictability and fear, which is what I read about. Grizzlies are fearful and they're unpredictable. Unpredictability and fear, and I want you to kiss it. I want you to welcome this place that you're coming into of unpredictability and fear. Wow, there was wind on that. I go in the next couple of weeks, life unfolded, and I was in that exact place of unpredictability and fear. But because God said, welcome this time in your life, I could do it. And I trusted him. Number of weeks later, I get a 4th dream. This dream is about a bear again that comes and attacks me, and we are fighting it. And I end up, it's like a hand-to-hand combat thing, and I end up snapping its jaw. I end up beating this thing, like I kill it. So there's a time to kiss the bear, but there's also time to kill the bear. And it's laying at my feet, and I look down and I see on my legs there's like huge scars. There's no blood, there's no pain. There's huge scars. And I wake up. And God showed me that the battle with this thing is over. That I've been scarred in my ministry, in the strongest parts of my ministry, which at that time were literally leading worship, and I was attacked in that way, had some wounds, had some scars, still do, but there's no more pain and there was no blood. To cap that off, later on, I was in Scotland with my wife, and we were going up into the Highlands, and I'd looked all over for, how you find, I want to see my name Barker somewhere, what does it mean, and all of that, and could not find anything, no keychains, no placards, no anything with Barker written on it, an explanation of my name meaning. So I gave up. And then we stopped just for a washroom break way in this little town way up north, and it was just this wee little shop, a little wool shop. And what do I see? But there's my name, Barker. And it's a fairly good sized little cardboard plaque that says the meaning of the name Barker. It tells me about Barker. But you know what the armoral bearings of Barker were? A bear's head. A bear's head. In fact, 3 bear's heads. Related to the 3 dreams in my mind. And the bear's heads were decapitated bear's heads. Decapitated. Done. Over. And I just thought, nice touch, Lord. You're the best. God does speak now one way, now another. Though men may not perceive it, keep a good attitude. Don't dismiss things. Just trust the Lord, and though it might be crazy, it might be wild, journal it, shelf it, pray about it, ask others about it. God does speak. Are you listening?